In this Circuits of the Past video, we show you 10 unknown race circuits that you may never have heard of. Number 10. The Impéria Test Track. We start this list with an unknown circuit that was actually only ever a test track. Furthermore, it was one of only 3 rooftop test tracks in the world. The abandoned Impéria rooftop test track was in Zandvoort in Belgium. Impéria itself was a Belgian car manufacturer that existed from 1906 through to 1948. They started off in Liège, which is not too far from the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, but we'll save that story for another day. And in 1907 the company moved to the nearby village of Zandvoort in the municipality of Truus. In 1928 they built their own test track, around and on top of the factory buildings. The track was a little more than 1 kilometre long, and it was one of only 3 rooftop test tracks in the whole world. The other 2 were on the Fiat Lenginotto factory, probably butchered that, opened in 1923, and the Chrysler factory in Buenos Aires, which opened in 1928. I've got no idea what was going on in the 1920s, but clearly everyone wanted to raise their roofs. In 1948, Impéria stopped as a brand and only assembled standard Vanguard cars under licence. But soon after that, Standard decided to set up their own factory in Belgium, so the old Impéria factory had to close its doors down, and they did so in 1957. Factory buildings can still be seen in Zandvoort and part of the test track that was built on the roof. The other parts have sadly been demolished. Number 9. Aerautodromo di Modena. Aerautodromo di Modena is a former racetrack in Italy, which was a combination of a circuit and an airfield. Today it's a park, with just a few reminders of the past and some statues of some racing drivers. The name Aerautodromo is a combination of aerodromo, Italian for airport, and autodromo, which is Italian for racetrack. I've probably butchered both. Aerautodromo di Modena was a 2.4 kilometre or 1.5 mile long racetrack near the Italian city of Modena, which opened in 1950. The circuit was crossing an airstrip which was used by a local flying club. Up until 1961, the track hosted 9 editions of the Modena Grand Prix for Formula 1 and Formula 2 cars. In 1961 through to 1975, the circuit hosted other racing events such as sport cars, Grand Touring, Formula Junior and motorcycle races too. The event known as the Modena Grand Prix was a race that was held for several types of Formula cars and sports cars, and it was held between 1927 to 1961. The races were first held on a street circuit, and then in 1961 on the Aerautodromo di Modena. Great names in motorsport such as Enzo Ferrari, Tazio Nuvarali and Alberto Ascari triumphed during the Modena Grand Prix. The last Modena Grand Prix was a Formula 1 race held on the 3rd of September 1961 and was won by Sir Stirling Moss in a Lotus. In the 1960s and 1970s, the track was also used by Ferrari and Maserati as a test track. It was also used by a nearby military camp for driver training. Alongside this, it still also kept its original function as an airport for private flights, so the place was clearly very busy. In the early 1970s, Enzo Ferrari, backed by Maserati, demanded the Modena Town Council and Automobile Club d'Italia to upgrade the track because of the lack of safety for testing and for modern car racing. A proposal was initially discussed with interest, but eventually it stalled due to a lack of political will. Frustrated by the lack of progress in the negotiations, Ferrari then proceeded to buy the land adjacent to his factory and he built out the Fiorano circuit, which still exists and is used by Ferrari today. In 1972, Automobile Club d'Italia decided to invest in the nearby semi-permanent Imola circuit instead. This effectively ended Modena's perspectives or chances of ever holding a modern Formula 1 race. The circuit officially closed in 1979 and was then demolished. In 1991, the site was redeveloped into a public park to honour Enzo Ferrari. Number 8. Opel-Rennbahn. The old Opel-Rennbahn opened in 1920 as a test facility for the Opel factory in Rüsselsheim, Germany. It was an oval track inspired by the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The length of the track was 1.5 kilometres, or 0.9 miles, with two 32-degree banked corners. Soon after, they saw a commercial potential of the test track, and they started to organise races during the weekends. For these occasions, they built 5 grandstands around the track, which could accommodate up to 50,000 spectators. But when in 1927 the Nürburgring opened, and then again in 1932 the Hockenheimring opened, the Opel-Rennbahn had tough competition from modern tracks, or at least modern for the time. So in the 1930s, less races were organised, and then when World War II broke out in 1939, motor racing stopped altogether. After the war, the Opel-Rennbahn was used by the American Army to test military vehicles, but in 1949 the test track became disused and was left abandoned and reclaimed by nature. In 1987, the abandoned circuit got the status of Monument of Industry and Technology. And that's meant that, as of today, a part of the overgrown track has now been cleared and it's been equipped with an observation platform. Where most abandoned circuits are illegal to visit, you can come along to this one legally. Number 7. Pedralbes. The Pedralbes circuit was a very fast 4.465 kilometre or 2.79 mile long triangular street circuit in the Pedralbes district of Barcelona in Spain, or Catalonia if you want. I think Toblerone. The first time it was used was in 1946 for the Penyarin Grand Prix. In the early 1950s, it hosted 3 times a Formula 1 Grand Prix event. In 1950, the Penyarin Grand Prix was the inaugural Formula 1 race. For this event, the circuit was expanded, and the driving direction was also changed from counterclockwise to clockwise. The length of the circuit was now 6.316 kilometres, or 3.947 miles, with a 2 kilometre, or 1.25 mile, long start-finish straight. Vegas thought it was long, check that one out. During the Grand Prix, top speeds of 280 kilometres or 175 mph were held on this long straight, which made Pedralbes the fastest street circuit of all time. For 1951, the Grand Prix was actually counted as a Formula 1 World Championship event, so it was the first official F1 race in Spain. In 1954, the Spanish Grand Prix would come back to Pedralbes after an absence of 2 years. For this event, a small change to the circuit was made, which brought the length now up to 6.333 kilometres or 3.958 miles. However, this would then become the last F1 race at Pedralbes. After a grave accident in the 24 Hour of Le Mans in 1955, which took the lives of more than 80 spectators, races all over the world were cancelled, and that included the Spanish Grand Prix. As a result of the accident, safety standards for circuits were then increased, and that meant that this fast street circuit would never be used again. Number 6. Street Circuit Zandvoort. The Dutch village Zandvoort is very well known, obviously, for its beaches and its permanent racetrack, which has been the scene of the Dutch Formula 1 Grand Prix between 1950 to 1985, and then again since 2021. But less people know that there was also a Zandvoort street circuit before the permanent circuit was ever built at all. In the late 1930s, Mayor Mr. H. van Alphen of the Dutch sea resort Zandvoort came to the great idea to organise a race in his hometown. I mean, who wouldn't? Because the construction of a permanent racetrack was deemed to be too expensive, an alternative was found in a construction site where they would build an expansion to the town. The Royal Dutch Automobile Club, KNAC, supported the plans and grandstands and the pits where they were built. On the June of the 2nd, 1939, the first practices were held, and on the 3rd, Zandvoort for its first ever race event. This was also the first real car race event in the Netherlands. The track was 2.284 kilometres or 1.419 miles long and had roughly the shape of an 8 with a big loop and a small one. It was a twisty and narrow circuit, with overtaking being particularly difficult. On the 3rd of June 1939, Zandvoort saw its first ever car races. After the first races on the street circuit in Zandvoort, Mayor Van Alphen then got the taste for a permanent racetrack for his own town. However, the outbreak of World War II would come and ruin those plans, at least for the time being, for sure. According to the stories, Mayor van Alphen tried to persuade the Germans, who occupied Netherlands during World War II, to build a parade street on the spot where the start-finish straight of the current circuit is now, not knowing that the mayor had very different plans for that parade circuit. Before the permanent circuit was opened in 1948, the Zandvoort street circuit was used 2 more times for motorcycle races. They were held in 1946 and 1947 respectively. The rest is history. In 1948, the permanent Zandvoort circuit opened, which started to host the Formula 1 Grand Prix. Number 5. Circuit de Lezennes. The Circuit de Lezennes is a permanent circuit in the northwest of France near the city of Lille. It was not a racing circuit and only accessible for motorcyclists to test their driving skills and drive at speeds that they weren't allowed to do so on the public road. Motorcyclists could buy a year pass and get access to the track with their street-legal motorcycles on the days that the track was open. This caused a dangerous mix, though, of fast and slow motorcycles and experienced and inexperienced riders and drivers. The circuit had a peculiar characteristic where the layout was full of long right-handed corners. This would cause tyres to wear faster on the right side than the left, so many would solve this by turning around their tyres every 2 or 3 track days. That sounds like a tightwad tip if ever I've heard one. The circuit itself had several different configurations too. The main configuration was the 1.9 kilometre or 1.18 mile long outer loop, which is what we're walking through in this video. The loop itself could be divided into 2 smaller circuits by means of 2 connections in the centre of the track. You could also make longer combinations too, by connecting the outer loop to some of these interconnections. There was also a motocross track for motorbikes too in the infield. Although the circuit wasn't close to residential areas, the mayor claimed that he'd received many noise complaints. A common problem with all of the circuits on this channel, it seems, and that's why he would work to try and close the circuit down. In addition, more and more stringent requirements were placed on the circuit, and they just simply couldn't be met, and all of this resulted in its closure in 2019. Since then, Circuit de Lezennes has been left abandoned, and to prevent illegal driving, the track has been filled with rubble. While we enjoy this urban exploration by Herman, I'll tell you a little bit more about the people behind this YouTube channel. Herman, or Herman Lischmeyer is his full name, is the founder of the Circuits of the Past website and YouTube channel, and he filmed most of the footage that you see in this video. My name's Simon Smith, and I just do the voiceovers, and have a YouTube channel called High Plane Games if you're interested. Another contributor to this video is Yuri Bruschi from Italy. He filmed the footage of the Aerautodromo di Modena, and he's also explored the old Monza banking together with Herman. If you're new to this channel and have not experienced any kind of trauma in your life, then I strongly recommend watching Yuri crash his bicycle down the Monza banking in the Monza video. Link in the description, I'm sure. Yuri also has his own YouTube channel with videos from Italian motorsport, and a link to that is definitely found in the description of this video. Number 4. Nivelles. The Nivelles circuit opened in 1971 as a safer alternative to the old Spa-Francorchamps. The circuit was designed by Dutchman John Hugenholtz, who also designed tracks like Suzuka, Jarama and the stadium section of Hockenheim. Nivelles hosted the Formula 1 Belgian Grand Prix in 1972 and in 1974, and both races were won by Emerson Fittipaldi. Among others, because Nivelles was at its time quite far ahead in terms of safety, the circuit went into the history books as being deemed as a flat, boring circuit, but that's not really fair. The layout contained elevation changes and had a very challenging corner combination. Another reason for its bad reputation is the fact that the circuit was never truly finished. The design foresaw a longer track, but because they couldn't bring up enough money to buy the necessary land to build it all, they built a shorter 3.7 kilometre version first. The intention was to then expand the circuit later, but this was a huge miscalculation because once the circuit was there, the landowners on the surrounding property wanted more money for said land, and so the Nivelles circuit never truly got finished because it couldn't stump up the cash to get it done. Sadly, the Nivelles circuit closed after a lot of financial issues and woes in 1981. After the closure, it was used for illegal racing during the weekends, and often the police had to come to stop it. In 1998, the first work started here to change the abandoned racetrack into a business park, and the actual demolition started in 1999. but part of the track remained all the way up until 2020. Today, sadly, there is absolutely nothing left of the Nivelles circuit. The sole site is now a business park, but part of the roads around it still follow the old track layout. Number 3. Sitges Terramar. The Sitges Terramar circuit opened in 1922 as a private initiative from Frick Almaring, near the seaside resort of Sitges Terramar, not too far from Barcelona. The track was an oval with a huge banking of 66 degrees. Sounds like my waistline. A strange detail is that the oval also had a right kink in its back straight too. The Sitges Terramar circuit was the first permanent racetrack in Spain, and in 1923 it hosted the Spanish Grand Prix, which was won by Albert Devo in his Sunbeam. However, the racetrack was not a financial success. Bills were mounting up, they weren't being paid, and as a result it was shunned by international series. In 1925, Bugatti driver Edgar Morowitz bought the site. He was able to put in a short recovery of the Sitges Terramar circuit, but in 1936, when the Spanish Civil War broke out, the track closed and it was never reopened again. In 2008, Herman visited the abandoned racetrack. It took him some effort to get permission from the then owner to take any pictures, because in those days it was turned into an agricultural area. In 2016, a plan was presented to reopen the track, but not for motor racing. The banked oval would be used for events and presentations for car manufacturers. They started with construction of a horse track on the infield, and that's as far as they've got to date. Number 2. Autodrom Gelsenkirchen. The Autodrom Gelsenkirchen was a 750 metre or 0.466 mile short club circuit in the west of Germany. It opened in 1969 as a gravel track and became an asphalt layered track in 1977. The track was used for amateur stock car racing, and although it was a road circuit, in a way it had a lot of characteristics of a quarter-mile oval. The official name of the track was the Motodrom Gelsenkirchen, but the locals mostly called it the Almaring. Alma was the name of a cooking plant that previously was on the location of the site, and Ring is German for circuit, so it actually was just nicknamed the Alma Circuit. Unfortunately, in the 1980s, opposition from environmentalists and local residents who complained about the noise started to chunter down on the Almaring. That led to the closure of the circuit after the 1984 season, and since then the track was left abandoned. Where most abandoned circuits are illegal to visit, this one can actually still be visited legally. The site is now a park, and whilst the overgrown track is now an asphalt layer of path going through the woods, you can still go around it and experience the track. If you want to visit some of the abandoned racetracks, we have something for you. Over on the website circuitsofthepast.com, you can download a free ebook with 7 abandoned racetracks that you can visit legally. Leave Herman to take on the illegal exploring for us. Urban-X at its finest. Number 1. The Suriname Motorsport Park. The Suriname Motorsport Park is a racetrack in the Para district of the South American country Suriname. The track itself is 1 kilometre long and 18 metres wide and suitable for organising drag races. The track was opened in May 2013 and is the first official racetrack in Suriname. The owner of the Suriname Motorsport Park is Motorsport, in full the Foundation for the Promotion of Motorsport in Suriname. What a mouthful. Motorsport was founded in the 2nd of November 2006 and has since organised competitions in various places around the country. As you can see, when Herman visited the site, the only things racing there were these lizards. From June 2010, Motorsport was part of the working group for the promotion of motorsports in Suriname, which was set up by Minister Santoki of Justice and Police. The committee's aim was to find a cross-country terrain to prevent illegal racing on public roads. In May 2013, Motorsport opened Suriname's first official racetrack, the Suriname Motorsport Park in Para. During the opening, the goal was stated to eventually expand the number of racetracks in Suriname to 7. Now, the track may look abandoned during this exploration, but it is still an operational racetrack. Shortly before Herman's visit, there was a drag race competition held at SMP. While we enjoy the images of Herman's explorations, I'd like to do a quick shout out to our supporters on Patreon. If you want to help Herman show historic and special motorsport locations all the way around the world, please do pop over to patreon.com/circuits of the past. A link can be found in the description of this video. In exchange for your support, you get access to extra special content. You can also make a single donation on paypal.me/circuits of the past. That link is down in the description of this video too, and Herman is extremely grateful for every contribution, no matter how big or small. It helps him to continue his work. So that's our top 10 unknown race circuits that you may never have heard of, although if you're an eagle-eyed viewer of this channel, all of them have popped up at some point in the past. If you like the video, then please subscribe for more videos from interesting motorsport locations from the past and occasionally from the present too. And don't forget to click on that bell icon so that you don't miss anything that we pop out. Visit the website www.circuitsofthepast.com for more information about lost race circuits and to download that free ebook about 7 abandoned tracks that you can visit legally too. Thank you so much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.